frightening examples of Islamic extremism right here in this country. Thousands of radical Islamists and so-called Islamic villages have been set up across the country. Look at this map. It shows the extensive reach from Los Angeles to New York, groups involved in guerrilla war training, imams calling for violent jihad, and instituting Sharia law. Here now to discuss this threat in our very country is Ryan Morrow, a national security analyst for the Clarion project dedicated to exposing the dangers of Islamic extremism in America. Ryan, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
I was watching you and Bill O'Reilly talking this week about this very issue. Your report is so absolutely disturbing because there is so little discussion of it on the airwaves, in newspapers, magazines across the country. I think people sense what's happening, but they don't have anything comparable to the knowledge base that you've assembled here on this threat within our own country.
Right. Viewers can go to clarionproject.org and see some of what's going on in their state. We have a section on our website called Islamist Organizations in America, referring to the radicals. And I think the fundamental issue here is that we've heard so much about Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and we focus on the individuals that are setting off the bomb. You have to focus on the ideology as a whole. If you're calling for instituting Sharia or you're preaching anti-Americanism, you're creating the foundation for all of that to happen. You're part of the same problem.
You know what's interesting? President Obama today dismissed radical Islamists, which he won't even use the phrase, and said it wasn't an existential threat, dismissing what has been more than a decade of combat in Afghanistan. The Taliban emerges the victor, whom we had destroyed at the outset of that conflict. The ideology which he ignores is exactly what makes it an existential threat, and he dismisses it with a wave of his emperor's wand, or whatever you may call it. It seems not only irresponsible, but purposefully duplicitous.
Well, what's frustrating for me is that now virtually everyone is using these terms in Europe, in the Middle East, and no one's getting offended. There's no backlash. The argument in favor of this type of vague terminology is that you don't want it to appear as if we're waging a war on Islam and the entire Muslim world. What we say will be misinterpreted, and you don't want that backlash. But look at our press. Look what moderate Muslims are saying. They're saying we're fighting the Islamists. What's the Muslim Brotherhood call themselves? Islamists. So they're using the terminology. Why can't we?
And the question would be, why do we have to defend our use of any language? Free speech is a right in this country. It is not in Europe to the extent it is here. Free speech is fundamental to the American experience and to the American culture and our Constitution. The group, CARE, they style themselves as a civil rights organization. What are they in your judgment?
Well, in the judgment of the Justice Department and the Muslim Brotherhood, as written in their own documents, this is an entity of the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood. Specifically, what the Brotherhood set up was called the Palestine Committee. It was a secret section to advance the Hamas agenda through the media. And the FBI wiretapped some of the founders of CARE at a Muslim Brotherhood meeting in Philadelphia in 1993. And you can read these wiretaps, the transcripts online, and they were specifically talking about using deception in order to advance the Islamist cause. And here's the ironic thing about that. They were saying, we're Islamists, we're fighting for the Islamist cause. And now CARE says to the media, you can't use the word Islamist.
And by the way, they have succeeded in stilling the voices of so many media organizations, news outlets, because they are litigious and because they have been working diligently to effectively silence an independent press in this country. Hancock, New York. Talk about that town in New York and what you have found there.
This is really amazing. There's a radical cleric in Pakistan named Sheikh Jilani, and there's videotape of him explicitly saying, I'm setting up these training camps around the United States, including this place called Islamburg in Hancock, New York, where the headquarters is, for guerrilla warfare training. And I had a law enforcement source give me a tape of that guerrilla warfare training happening at Islamburg. They say they have 22 of these, quote, Islamic villages around the country. We identified one in Texas last year.
Let me ask the director to take this video full, if you would, And I'd like to see that opening shot in that video, because it is really quite something to see the name of this place laid out on that sign. Islamburg. It couldn't be more specific, could it?
No, and this is basically to set up a no-go zone. They are isolating themselves. They're essentially creating a state within a state, and they're very radical. Their leader said that Jews are examples of human Satans and that the Jews engineered Pearl Harbor to make us go and fight Hitler. Incredible.
In this country, in 2015, we're going to be continuing our discussion with Ryan Morrow. We'll be bringing you the reports of the Clarion Project throughout, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for bringing this to the public's attention.
Thank you.
The country owes you a real expression of thanks. We appreciate it.
Thank you.